Eventually, we're all drawn to the shore, right? It's the shore of our own ignorance, the ocean of consciousness. And it's an infinite fractal, an infinite wellspring of misery as well as inspiration, right? I can remember when I was hanging out at Fish. Right? I was hanging out with these people. They were really cool. I was like playing guitar and we were like smoking weed and just like hanging out and like having a good time. And they were from Philly. I remember that. They kept saying John's. But the girl, she said, "Oh, what do you think? What do you think the DMT? What do you think the DMT elves are?" And I thought of it immediately. I said, "Oh, it's a psychological prison." And they both got like, they were like kind of taken aback. I said, "Whoa, like no, dude, no, that's not, no." And they didn't really understand what I was saying, right? And so what I'm saying is that like all of those entities, right, that you see in your mind, right, hearken to some psychological thing within you, right? That's the point, right? It's not a prison necessarily, but it's a window into, it's a visual manifestation of some window into your psyche, and I think that is true. I'm almost certain of it, in fact, right? And so, right, it's that shore. It's glimpsing a specific waveform on the shore, right? That's right. And so the more of the ocean that you're able to perceive, right, and understand, right, the wider the frame gets, the denser your mind gets, the clearer the resolution gets, right, the broader the depth of your ignorance will always be. That there's always this line, you can't ever like circumvent it, right? People come to spiritual understandings, people come to recognitions of conscious awareness, right, through a myriad of ways. Some people only see it on their deathbeds and through near-death experiences, psychedelic inspiration, right, years of torture and misery, right, extreme discipline, right. All of these things can all liberate your mind out of the shackles of Maya, of the illusion, right. That what we see, right, is a fractal shadow of its idealized form. Right? That all things reside as idea and are corrupted through motion into a kinetic shadow of that idea. And so this is the source of all life, right? And I've discussed it many times on this channel. And so all clairvoyants hearken to that same facility as well. It's the recognition that mind permeates all of space, right? That consciousness is a field that operates on all stratas, all convocations simultaneously. And through the discipline of the adept, through the study, right, and the awareness, the calmness, the meditation of the adept, of the student, right, the conscious awareness of the individual, right, can quantum entangle, right, the atomic structure of the electrical condition of their body, of their brain, of their conscious field, right, with a disparate locale or a person, right? And so oftentimes it's more like a radio wave. It's more like a radio signal. Each time we have a thought in our minds, it's not merely the abstract idea. It's also an electrical condition engendered by the physical structure of the brain. This is what's occurring, right? You have a thought. Where does the thought come from? Oh gosh, no one knows, right? The thoughts are non-local, right? But the condition of having the thought engenders a physical condition within the brain, a novel neuronal firing, synaptic firing, which engenders a membrane of an electric field. And so if your intention is purely to play guitar, right, then that electric field, right, goes through the arms and comes out the fingers, and the music radiates out. That's the discharge. The discharge is through the instrument, primarily. And so, right, that's what a clairvoyant is doing as well, right? That they're saying, oh, well, mind is anywhere, right? They don't need rigorous, like, scientific proving of clairvoyance, right? They recognize that psychic phenomenon is a latent bandwidth within man, within all of creation, right? It's the recognition that mind is everywhere. And so the clairvoyant says, oh, I want to see, right? I want to see your thoughts. I want to see what someone else is doing, right? And so this is the difference between true clairvoyance and cold reading, right? That when you call Miss Cleo, right, or when you go into the psychic shop, right? When I like say you go into a psychic shop and you pay them, $100 or whatever, and you say, okay, tell me something good, right? That what they're doing 99% of the time is they're relaying the information that you express through your physical, right? Your physicality, your facial features, your eyes, at the speed of light into their mind, right? And offering a cold interpretation of what that represents spiritually and psychologically, right? That's what's actually happened, probably 95% of the time. But the other 5% is pure spiritual rhapsody, right? And so this is the secret to remote viewing. This is what's actually occurring with remote viewing, that you are harmonizing the two conditions atomically, molecularly, like physically, right, metaphysically, right, to such an attenuated degree that through your meditative introspection, right, you're allowed to actually see what is occurring at the other place, or what the other person is actually doing. And so this can go the other way as well, right? That it's not a one-way street. You can go out, right, like a radio signal, and then, right, one of the truest expressions of spiritual revelation is when you collapse that electrical waveform back to center, right, which is the pineal gland at the geometric center of the brain. And so this is what occurred with me when I had my spiritual awakening in 2018. And so that was, 7 years ago now, almost 7 years ago to the day. And I was partying, like, I was like having a good time, like hanging out with people. And it just got to be like real overbearing, so I went outside and I got in my truck, and it was really dark. I was in Boulder, Colorado. And I closed the door and it was pitch black, I had been meditating every day for about 3 years by that point. Every day, as long as I could. I didn't expect anything out of it. I just said, oh, I want to be still, and I want to be close. I want to be close to the source, as best as I can. And as soon as I closed my eyes, right, like I wasn't able to like articulate it in such a sophisticated way as I can now, but that's what actually occurred, right, where I collapsed the actual membrane of the electrical condition engendered by my thoughts, right, and involuted it, right, to where it inverted, right, and went inside out, back into the conscious field that permeates all of space, back to its original source code condition. And it was overbearing. It was, what can you say, when you glimpse the heavens, when the eye of God opens before you, and it was all just like, but again, it was hearkening to something within me, because I was getting into geometry in a palpable way as well, that we all shape the eternity that we seek to see within ourselves, right? So, right? A part can never know the whole, but you can be a good part. Through study, through patience, through discipline,